Alrighty, I'm Tolby, and we're back with the Battle of Polytopia, doing a replay analysis. This one is sent by one of my Team Plague team members, asking what they could have done to improve it, because while they felt like they had the spawn win, they felt like they definitely struggled way more than they should have. And after I took a look at it, yeah, I'd kind of agree. So let's go ahead and take a look at this game, because it was pretty good. It ended it kind of quickly, but we're going to go ahead and go over an analysis, so that way anybody else wanting to learn how to play on continents on a small map can have a basic idea how to do so. So for those unaware, continents, there's no guaranteed land on the borders. Continents has a lot more water than lakes does, hence the name of continents. Usually there's typically multiple, continents, or islands, if you want to so call it. Usually there's going to be like 2 or maybe 3, and multiple players tend to be clumped into their own. And very often you'll end up finding like a single tiny little island that's only one large, and that has a single village on it. But this is the map that they're going to be playing on for this replay of today. So we have Sir Radish playing as Zinzi, and then we have a Gamer for Life, someone they played against randomly online, and that ended up putting up a very good fight and ended up being kind of interesting to watch. Starts off, Zinzi gets to start climbing on all the mountains in order to start exploring all of the terrain, and they get that vision bonus, able to see that, okay, well, they got a lot of water off to their side, and immediately can find another village to the south of where their capital is, while they are spawning in the western corner. Barter, on the other hand, is spawning on the southern corner and is getting a good split. Unlucky for them, their first warrior ends up exploring over to the west side, and sure, they get a village, but now it's at a dead end. And now they got to find another way around. Barter's picking up quick barter techs of going single warrior into a couple of villages, so they've got the good barter strats of knowing how to level up all of their cities just fine before even considering riding. Barter's the first one to be picking up an explore, and my goodness, the vision that they get from that. They get to see that they're going to be losing the race towards the choke point of this map, which is pretty much around the center, and Zinzi, Sir Radish, is going to be picking up that central village. Picking up ruins, they end up getting a swordsman, and they're going to be able to solidify their claim for that village in the center. Barter decides to expand those borders and rushes out that giant on turn 6. So they've got the first giant, and with that, they're going to be able to have the monument to start pushing out even more. Sir Radish goes with an explorer to be able to see everything that's going on, and able to see, sure, they have a veteran swordsman from ruins, but there's no way they're going to be pushing in against that giant. However, since they were able to get this choke point, this entire northeastern part of the continent is now completely theirs. So we're going to see what Zinzi ends up doing with that. Good old Sir Radish, what are you going to do? Starts pumping out their own giants. The first one goes from their capital, and immediately they level up their city on the choke point to get those city walls. They don't plan on losing that city anytime soon, and with picking up mathematics to have catapults to support that, there's no way they're going to be able to lose that. What needs to be done by both players now is, since they both have catapults that are going to be staring at that central choke point, they should consider going sailing, because catapults really can't do much against sailing ships. However, with the way this map is generated, Barter only has one avenue to go, and that is going to be to the eastern side. We're going to see if Barter can figure that out. Meanwhile, Zinzi is setting up not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 catapults to support those cities. Those city walls are not going to fall. And in a little bit, Zinzi is picking up the last of the villages on the northeastern parts of the continent. With their singular giants and a couple roads already rushing out by multiple players, they're going to be contesting for that, and boom, Barter's gotten their first giant onto the water, right onto the eastern side, exactly where it needs to be. Right now, it's only got a boat, as Barter currently does not have the navigation technology, so hopefully they'll be able to pick up battleships to put up an even better fight. Barter's already gotten a veteran catapult, as they're constantly shelling down those city walls with their catapults, and they're not going to let a single unit through. That veteran swordsman has already melted. It doesn't matter that they've got walls boosting their defense. They cannot stand it. However, so Sir Radish is now picking up even more catapults. Not one, not two, but three more on the eastern side. Catapults do not fare well, and boom! Bop-a-da-bop-a-da-bop. That catapult is shot down by a boat, and it just takes one more shot for that to be finished off. Navigation's picked up by Barter, immediately starting to see, power down that eastern city on that little peninsula right over there. Sir Radish picks up a couple of knights, so that we're going to be trying to push through that center choke point, but with multiple giants, we're going to see if that's going to be enough. Got a couple of catapults right behind that. They're pelting them down with theirs, trying to figure out where can they sneak that knight in, because if they can get one knight in, this game's going to be over. However, Barter is now picking up the ruins, giving them even more stars. They're selling a ship? What are they picking up with that ship? Hold on, we're going to rewind just a little bit. Oh, they're picking up their own knights technology. So it's going to be knights versus knights. Which one's going to be rushing out first? Boom, that's one knight rushing in. That's two knights rushing in. Boom, that's three knights rushing in. Three knights rushing in, a lot more being trained. That is going to be two more knights waiting off in the back. Are these battleships going to be enough in order to secure the eastern side? Barter should be trying to contest that, showering down the last of those catapults, because there's not too much that can be done right over there. But one catapult in, the rider charges in, and boom! That's a one chain! That's a two chain! That's a three chain! For the knights, enough to solidify, killing off the rest of Barter's catapults. Barter doesn't have very many troops left. They don't have enough pressure on this eastern side, and Barter concedes and surrenders. Oh, if they could have lasted just a little bit longer, but those knights rushing in with all of their attack power was a little bit too much. That's only been about 8 minutes, so we're going to try to figure out what both these players could have done better. And we're going to be getting right back into that in just a moment. Alright, and the first bit of feedback is going to be to our red Zinzi player, Sir Radish. So, Sir Radish had developed 4 catapults, a little bit overkill, as you really only need 3 catapults and then maybe another troop in order to deal with giants, because catapults are just going to absolutely shred any giants that are coming in. And at this point, our opponent, both of those giants decided that, you know what, well, they don't like rocks. They're going to be turning around and heading to this port right over here on the eastern side of their capital. Well, not for their capital, but for their main city that they expanded right over there. These catapults aren't really doing anything, and since they can see that Barter is going to be going onto the boats, the last thing you need to be doing is training more catapults, because while catapults are very strong and they can one-shot a lot of units, the moment that a single boat, not necessarily a boat, but when a ship, an upgraded ship, or heck, even a battleships will one-shot catapults. Upgraded ships will two-shot catapults, but leave them at 1 health, rendering them virtually useless for about 3 turns. So catapults are not the best for defending the coast. They're great for supporting your battleships, but for defending your coast, absolutely not. What needed to be done here at this point, even though what ended up worked perfectly fine, they just decided, you know what, I've got so much more military power, I could just train a bunch of knights and throw it at my enemy's face. That'll win me the game eventually, right? And in this case, it did. They got, I would almost say that they got lucky, because they're not the only ones that were free of misplays. I don't know if this was a live game, but I do know this is a random game played online. What needed to be done here, they needed to get onto the water themselves. If they can just start establishing at least ships. They don't need battleships, but just ships. They need to buy themselves more time. Right over here. So start picking up a couple of docks and get onto that water. They have plenty of income to afford battleships. Heck, they can afford a battleship a turn, and no one would be none the wiser. And if they can get 2 ships onto the water a turn, and then converting at least one of them into a battleship, they're just gonna outperform their enemy onto the water. And in a continents game, that's basically the end. That's all she wrote. Heck, you could even be having a dock right over here, because as long as you got these catapults over here, perfectly safe and sound, there is absolutely nothing Barter can do. So you could even just have another dock right over here to Chapo? Have units, and then just start shuttling units over and attacking from a different angle. Because, sure, this central point was enough to win you the game by throwing knights at the problem, but if you're wanting, how could this have gone a little bit better, you need to get onto the water on a continents game. Continents is all about the water. It's not Waterworld where it's only water, but you need good land, but your water game better be better. Because you're gonna, that's just how Continents rolls. Other than that, I think it was a pretty darn clean game. Alright, now for Gamer for Life, their little bit of a misplay actually came from turn 17, which is fantastic to say the least. To go all the way to turn 17 before you really start to go, yeah, that could have been done a little bit better. Because they just had bad luck when it came to their early game expansion choices. So in this case, right over here, they get to see that their opponent now has a knight. Knights are very tricky to be dealing with, especially when you got limited land space like this. But the first and most important thing you always got to remember is you got to space your units out. If a single knight is able to run in and absolutely destroy all of your catapults, that's it. There's nothing else that you can do. So this veteran catapult over here actually needs to be preparing as a backup, probably setting up right over here, right next to the docks, so that way if any knight decides, you know what, I'm going to go into those mountains right over there, they can kill them, bop-a-da-bop-a-bop. This catapult right over here, sadly because they lost the race to these 2 catapults over here, there's nothing that could do, so at least buy yourself a little bit of extra space, maybe go onto the mountain. You can't cover the entire space anymore. Oh, and the phone is dying. It's okay, we'll be finishing this up in just a moment. And this last catapult over here, yeah, just kind of in the center. Right over here, there's not much else that I can do. Maybe just have it heal up. Or just run it all the way back and start healing. Just, you gotta space your units out. Because if a single knight goes through, the worst thing you can have is your entire army is just melted. And sadly, we ended up seeing that happen in this game. So there's that. And also, Warriors is no longer going to cut it for you. You're doing a perfect job. They were doing a perfect job picking up navigation and going battleships onto the water. Perhaps if they could have gone strategy to just buy themselves a little bit more time and try to attack this eastern flank with the water, because they had naval superiority. Their opponent hadn't even considered the water. But round right over here, because notice they were slowly killing off all of those catapults. There's nothing else that could really be done about that. What else could be done at this point? Yeah, they decided to go chivalry themselves, but unless they could deal with that potential giant, which I don't see happening, chivalry is really not the answer. Even though, like, well, I don't know, with the way the units were built up over here. So at the end of this turn, yeah, I believe this is the turn they picked up chivalry, and then their opponent had a lot more units. And you're playing Zinzi, you're gonna be fighting swordsmen. This is where, like, even though they saw a whole bunch of units were lined up, Zinzi are just known for picking up swordsmen. I don't think chivalry is really going to be the answer, not without proper support. And you don't have enough archers, you don't have enough riders to whittle down all those swordsmen to have a singular knight run in and destroy the entire army. So what should you be doing? Well, you have naval superiority. Bring it over to the side. Pick up strategy. At this point, you need to be... you need to buy yourself some time, get some defenders. Every little bit helps. Thing number 2, just put some of these defenders onto the water. More health onto the water for the cheapest price possible, and turn those into battleships. You had a pretty decent economy at 18 stars per turn for 3 cities. So if you can get a couple of battleships, heck, turn this giant into a battleship when it was healthier a couple turns ago, that would have been a lot nicer. But that part did not end up happening. But if they could have gotten that giant onto the land at more fuller health, or swordsmen onto the land, and just slowly start sieging these cities down, that also would have been excellent. So what else could have been done? Well, because since they're already establishing naval superiority, this one's kind of a gimmick, but since there's not too much else they're going to be able to do against that onslaught of knights unless they pick up their own mass swordsmen, maybe just consider cloaks. Because even though you may think, well, cloaks aren't that great, because knights absolutely destroy them. Alright, well, if you pick up archery, and in this case, on Paxagu, knights, I mean, if you can get a single knight onto the city, sure, it could destroy all of the cloaks. I don't know. But you'd be locking down that city from knights, and you'd be stealing that city's income. I don't know, that's probably more of a gimmick. But the bigger thing, you needed to take more advantage of this naval superiority. Start bringing the ships over here, siege down that city, get rid of all these catapults, and bring them inside, right in here, to siege down on this side. Because sure, you can't do anything about these 2 catapults over here, but look at those catapults. Those catapults are way too close to that land. Sneak a couple of archers onto this side, and bop-a-da-bop-a-da-bop, those catapults are now useless. That's a lot of text that Barter needed, sadly, in order to make things useful, so they could have potentially gone archery to shoot down those catapults, weaken them, so that way they can't siege anything down anymore, allowing them to go onto the water over here, or just try to siege down this eastern city. Anyways, that game was fantastic to watch. Hope you guys learned something about this, because in this game it was alright, are we going to force the opponent down through land, or go naval superiority? Despite continents normally being about naval superiority, turns out knights was the answer. Well, hope you all enjoyed that little bit of play. I know I sure did, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.